Hey, this is MooreMunns Racing. I'm Avery Moore, and that's Hunter Munns.
Present.
There he is in front of me. We're on a single track trail right now out on Burnett's Mound, right next to the alien technology, but we're not going to talk about that right now. Right now, for this episode, we're going to show you how to what, you say? How to replace a toilet shutoff valve, which is really important, especially if you want to shut off a toilet. Kind of weird how that works. So,
and I will be of no help whatsoever on this project. In full disclosure, I'm probably add more to the need to replace the toilet than the actual replacing of the toilet.
But still important nonetheless. So, we're going to do that right now. I hope you enjoy it and maybe even learn something. MooreMunns Racing. Toilet shutoff valves are really important because they allow you to shut off the water. So if you need to work on the inside mechanics of your toilet, like the valve or the flapper valve or any of those things in there, you're going to need to stop the water supply. And the best way to do that is with a shutoff valve. Otherwise, you'll have to shut off the water for the entire house, which will make the other house occupants very unhappy, apparently, especially if they're in the middle of a shower or something like that. So what we're going to do is walk through the steps here. It's pretty easy to change out a shut-off valve. You just got to know what you're doing. So let's first take a look at what we have. You take a look at your average toilet, looks like that. And if you go beneath the tank is right here, and you go beneath that to the left side, as you're looking at it, you will see, and this is a bit of a crunch here, this is the shutoff valve, right? So what it is connected to is the supply line right here, and it goes up to the toilet tank, and this is what supplies your toilet tank with the water that it needs to make a decent flush. So this guy is very old. I think this was original equipment with the house, so we're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 years old or so. So this guy, we're going to replace this valve, and we're also going to replace this supply line. This is a hard supply line right here. We're going to replace that with a flexible one. It makes it so much easier to work with. This will give you a rough idea of what you're going to need to do this repair. So we may need some more tools along the way, which I will show you. But in general, you're going to need a couple of wrenches like this. You will need a new supply line and a valve. So this one here is a quick connect. I will show you more about that later. This is a fantastic invention. We have a pipe cutter or tube cutter. We may or may not need that depending on what it looks like once we pull that valve off. If it's rough down there, we're going to probably have to make some cutting with a hacksaw or something like that. We'll see when we get down there. This is a flange. I think they're also known as escutcheons. This is just a new one to make it look good. And this is a deburring tool that goes on the inside and the outside of the pipe before we put on that connector to make sure there's no metal in the way that's going to cause a problem with that connection. There you go. One of the first things that we need to do before we really start in earnest is to shut the main supply of water off. Unless we have some other shut-off switch in between, which we don't in this case, so we're going to have to shut the water off for the entire house. So to do that, you're going to have to find your shut-off valve for the house. So mine is right here. And that guy is a quarter turn valve, so we're going to turn him a quarter turn. Boom, we have just cut off the water supply. One thing you're going to want to do is find a valve that is the lowest one that you can find. This one here is in the basement of our house. So I'm going to turn that valve on. It doesn't matter which one. The cold one is probably best. We're going to turn that on or let that drain out, and we're just going to keep it on. What that allows us to do is to clear out those pipes, drain all that water down so that when we open up that valve area, that it doesn't come out all over the floor. And we're up here in the bathroom where we are going to be working. I'm also going to open up this valve, and we probably won't see any water come out of it, but you will hear air. So that's allowing the air to basically suck in there. It's kind of like when you let your finger off of a straw and the water just drains out of that straw. That's exactly what we're doing here. One thing you're going to want to remember is that you have a tank that is full of water. So if you start to take that supply line off the bottom of the tank, you are going to get wet. So as much as you can, first of all, you're going to want to flush the toilet, obviously, and then from there you're going to want to get as much water out of this tank as possible, because whatever's left over, that's going to end up on your floor. You can also take a bucket when you go to take the connector off. We'll show that in a bit, but for now we're going to flush the toilet. All right, so we've gotten all of the water out of the tank, and I did actually use a shop vac. Those are very handy, wet dry vac, for getting all the water out of the toilet tank so you don't end up getting a inadvertent shower. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this supply line off right here. This is going to be a bit of a tight squeeze for the camera. We'll do the best we can. I've got a little wrench here. I'm going to work on that, see how this works. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Maybe you don't use algebra in your everyday life, but we'll use righty tighty, lefty loosey for sure. There we go. We got that little nut off of there. That's great. Now we're going to go up to the tank here. Okay, this is where the supply line feeds into the bottom of the tank. So if you're lucky, these are hand tight, but generally you aren't. Let's find out. Oh, look at that. Unbelievable. So this guy, I was able to loosen this with my hand, and I promise you I did not use a wrench on this, so that's kind of unusual. Usually these things are really tight in there. We may get a little bit of water coming out, not sure. I don't have a bucket down here, so that'll be interesting. Oh, not too bad. So this hard line, it doesn't give you any movement, so you got to kind of fiddle with the tank a little bit. Okay, I was finally able to get this guy out. I had to actually move the toilet tank over to the right to get it far enough out to get this guy off of there. It was really difficult. So we'll zoom out a little bit here. You can see that. So you can see our supply line. This is it right here. This guy is totally inflexible, so it's really difficult to work with. But this is a compression type fitting that goes into here, and then just a regular screw type fitting right here that goes into the tank. All right, so now we're going to work on the valve itself. Okay, so no rehearsals on this. This is the valve. We've removed the supply line. These are usually compression type fittings. So we're going to attempt to unscrew this guy and see what happens. So lefty loosey, righty tighty. Well, we need to go lefty loosey here. All right, so this guy, I got this guy right here. I don't know if you can see that. This nut, that's part of our compression fitting. And you gotta, it's actually going, it seems like I'm going righty-tighty, but I'm not. And I can't get my dang hand out of the way. There we go. See that? There you go. That's the stuff. All right, this is actually gonna come off of there. I think. I shouldn't be so confident. Okay, so this guy's coming off of there. All right, so what happens is this guy, this nut, wow, look at that. That's some hard water. Holy cow. this nut, there's a compression thing in there. I can't even get to it. This is why I may have to saw this off. But this is righty-tighty, and it goes righty-tighty right onto there. And it compresses that and seals that guy up. So the reason why that I'm replacing this is because this valve, it doesn't actually shut off. You can see right here, somebody in the past had problems getting this valve to actually shut the water off. So they used a wrench to tighten this really, really tight, right? So, and I understand that. I've been there. You can't get the dang thing to stop. So you use a wrench to really crank this thing down. Well, it's pretty much trashed. See if I can get a light in there. If I can drop it first. You can see that. It's just disgusting. But that stopping the stopper in there, it's all rubber and it's all jacked up and worn away. So maybe you can see something in there. It's just really gross. Okay, so now we got to work on our pipe here and get it into shape. So I'm gonna try and show you. You can probably see, I think there is a compression ring in there. That little guy that's holding our nut on. That's how this compression thing works. But this pipe that's behind this, it's the same pipe, of course. Oop, I'm gonna drop the camera here. There we go. You see it's in pretty bad shape. So I may have to, I can't get this guy off, so I'm gonna have to probably cut this thing and work from it from there, work with it from there. I'm gonna get as close to this nut as possible to give us the most amount of pipe to work with. All right, so we got this guy off. It's gonna be really hot right now. There we go. So we got that pipe to work with there. It's a little stub. So I think that's enough to where we can put that new valve on there. Hopefully it's not bent out of shape. It's I've seen pipes in better shape than that for sure. I'm hoping that the shape of that guy is going to be conducive to putting that quick connect valve on there. So we'll see what happens. First thing we got to do now on this, we got to clean it up really well. So there's all kinds of crud on there, crust and stuff like that. We need to sand that guy down. How I'm going to do that is I've got this plumbing sanding strip, and it's a really large grit. Gets all the crap off there really well. So that's what I'm going to do to try and get this pipe in shape. All right, I don't want to bore you with all that sanding that I did with that blue abrasive strip, but here's what the pipe looks like. Not in too bad a shape. I was a little bit concerned about the shape of the actual shape of the pipe. You really want that pipe to be round. The end of that is not perfectly square, which may be a concern with the quick connect valve, but we're going to find out if we need to square that off somehow. But we'll see how that goes. First of all, I want to show you exactly how the quick connect connectors work. All right, these valves really are amazing, and if you've ever sweat soldered a pipe, the concept and the actual act of sweat soldering is really not that hard, and it's not that complicated, but it can get complicated really fast when you're in an enclosed space and you have a risk for fire. So I have actually caught pieces of my house on fire, small pieces, and had that risk. And when I found out about these quick connect valves, I was so happy because it's so much easier when you don't have a lot of room to work. So this one is called Quick Lock All right, and they come with directions, and they tell you how far you need to make sure that you have seated the valve or the connector onto the pipe. This one says you need to mark out 3/4 of an inch to make sure that that connector is properly seated. So I have an example pipe here, and I've marked out 3/4 of an inch on my pipe. That's just a Sharpie, I measured it out. Here's the actual quick connector. It's got the little thing on there which you can take off later. I don't know if they'll send you to jail if you take this off, but I think you're allowed. So what you want to do, and I gotta make sure I can see what I'm doing here, is this guy goes in there. There's a clip that's on here. Oh, hang on, I'll go get the clip. Okay, there's a clip that's on here. You want to take that off for now, but don't lose that. You'll need that later. All right, so here's our mark. Right, there's a little dealie in there. That's for PEX. This actually works on PEX, and this is not PEX. This is copper. It works on copper pipe. It works on PEX or polyethylene. It also works on PVC pipe. This is a 1/2 inch pipe right here. So basically, you put that in there. There's your mark. You slide it in. Boom, and that guy is seated. That is a sealed connection. Once you get that on there, you pop that clip. Show you like that. Boom, right there, that locks it on there. Okay, let's say you forgot to add in your escutcheon ring or whatever. Not a problem. This guy does come off, just like that. And you can reuse these quick connectors. These are amazing. So, it is a little tricky when you have cramped quarters, but we're gonna do that. So this valve here, this is all in one, right? Your supply line right here, it's very flexible, and then your valve. With your handle in the direction of the water, that means the valve is on, and then when it's in the, there we go. When it's perpendicular to the supply line, I should say water, the supply line, that means that valve is off. So I'm going to keep that in the off position for now. Okay, we're going to use our deburring tool, which looks like this. Showed you this. Oh, you can't see that. Hang on. Looks like this. It goes on the inside and the outside of the pipe. It just gets off the little metal burrs, so we'll do that. Not have to go crazy on it, but it helps kind of clean that thing up a little bit. Got a little bit of a catch there. Hoping that's not a showstopper. I'm going to get the outside. Same. Cleans that up really nice. Put some of that on there. There we go. That's that's actually pretty good looking. That's a good looking pipe right there. I don't like how it's not quite square, right? I like to see them very square. It's not quite as square as I want to see it. I can't get that focused. There we go. You can see it. It's a little wonky. I'm hoping that's not a showstopper. All right, so now what I'm going to do, if you remember on my demonstration pipe, I had a 3/4 inch mark. I'm actually going to do that on this pipe so that I know that I have the connector properly seated. I just knocked my light over. There we go. Hang on. It's very tight quarters here. This is my best. So we're at, there's an inch. I'm going to do 3/4 of an inch, which puts us about right there or so. So if all goes well, I shouldn't be able to see that mark when I put that connector on there. So hoping that works out okay. Okay, we're at a funky angle here, but I really need, I'm gonna have to hold this pipe. So I'm gonna use this pair of needle nose pliers to hold this pipe on here like this. Hopefully it'll give me enough leverage to get this connector on. So here is hoping, this is like the moment of truth. I'm really hoping that, actually the moment of truth comes later, but we'll see what that is. All right, here we go. See if I can get this seated properly. All right, that sounded really good. Okay, at this point I want to pause a little bit to clarify something. If you recall, that pipe wasn't quite square at the end, and I had a little bit of a mishap later. I went back later and I put on the little ring that goes around, right around, you know, it goes that area right there, which is fine, except there was one little thing. That pipe wasn't square, right, that I put that guy on. So it didn't quite have the grip that it needed on the pipe. And what ended up happening is when I was twisting this guy around, it actually came off, and it caused some it hit a little bit of wetness on the bathroom floor. But so just for future reference, that pipe needs to be square. I'm gonna zoom in on this guy a little bit. This got to be square. To get that pipe square, you really need to use a pipe cutter on the end. This is, I referred to this earlier in the video, and it will square off that pipe. Now what you lose when you do that is you lose a little bit of pipe, because you're going to need probably 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch of pipe in order to get that on here, in order to cut that off. But it will make a very nice square pipe end, just like this. This is our example pipe that we used. It'll make a very nice square pipe end, and it's exactly what you need to do that. Now we'll go back to our video.
Now I can't see my mark, so I'm actually gonna have to use the camera to see if I've covered my mark. So I'm gonna actually go in there and take a picture and see if I can see my mark, my 3/4 inch mark.
Okay.
This actually is the moment of truth right now. The water supply is back on. And so right now what you're doing is checking for leaks, and you really don't want any. So you can see here I've put the gray clip back on. I'm gonna move this out of the way here. Whoa. The gray clip, that's back on. Right now I'm not feeling any water. I'm not seeing any water. We are in good shape. Okay, so the next step here, you're almost done, right? This is the home stretch. So if you're gonna keep your existing toilet, sorry, I just ran up the stairs, right, really fast, just in case this thing was leaking, in case I had to run back down and shut the water off. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna put that supply line back onto the toilet like that, screw it on, hand tight. You don't really wanna wrench this thing. It is a plastic fitting. You get it on there as tight as you can. If you wanna wrench it for maybe just a touch, but do not over tighten this. They do seal up really well. Once you do that, you turn the water back on and you're back in business. It'll fill that tank up and you're back in business. I'm gonna replace this toilet, so I'm not gonna do that. But that concludes the replacement of a toilet shut-off valve. There you go.
And that is how it's done. If you have any questions or issues when you change out your shut-off valve, don't get a hold of me, because you probably should just call a plumber. So I really can't help you. I barely know what I'm doing as it is anyway. So there is a key thing there when you're looking at when you're using the quick connect connectors. You gotta make sure that that pipe is square. And the reason why, well, you'll find out the reason why on the follow-up video when I do a how to replace a toilet. You will find out, I will explain it there, and it is not fun. So make sure that that pipe is square. I can't overemphasize that enough. So that is how to replace a shut-off valve for your toilet.
Why is this thing flushing straight up and splattering the ceiling?
Something like that. If you even get so far as a flush. Yes, thank you, Mr. Munns. And that's MooreMunns Racing. If you should feel so inclined, please hit the like button. It does nothing for me other than make me feel good. I don't think it does anything for Hunter, because I don't think he cares. So hit the like button, knowing that no one's caring about it. And if you really care, hit the subscribe button and click on that little bell so you can get notified each and every time we upload whatever it is that we're uploading. All right, until next time, this is MooreMunns Racing.